Hi, everyone. As you know, we have started a series about the struggle of mental health for the medicos. And today I'm privileged to have Dr. Shruti with us from America. And she is a specialist in foot and ankle. And it is something which is not very common in India. And I would first welcome you. Thank you for spending time with us. I know you have been having a very hectic schedule, but believe me, what you're going to share with us today may save some lives or may make some lives better. As we have been experiencing a whole lot of medicos having a lot of struggle with their mental health. So, Dr. Shruti, welcome to this talk, and could you please
Thank
introduce yourself a bit better for our listeners?
Yeah, definitely. I'm a podiatrist in Virginia Beach, Virginia, in America. And the way you become a podiatrist is after undergrad, you go to 4 years of specialized podiatric medical school. And then I completed a 3-year residency in foot and ankle trauma and wound care. And now I'm working currently for the last 2, 3 years.
Oh, that's wonderful. So that means you have gone through the grind of undergraduation, that is MBBS in India, equivalent to that,
Yeah.
plus
hmm
the 4 years of specialization, that is kind of a PG in India, and then 3 years of residentship. Oh my God. So,
Yeah.
lately there has been a lot of cases. There have been a lot of cases, like recently, one of a students, a medical students in one of the very prominent colleges in Jaipur tried to commit suicide, and the girl is in coma right now.
Oh, wow.
And this is not just one odd case. I have been handling myself, I have been handling right now 12 medicos, either in their graduation or in their PG or after the PG, who have been having a lot of struggle with the mental health. Unfortunately, the awareness, that's very ironic, the awareness about mental health among the doctors seems to be at rock bottom. What is your take? Is it any different in US, or is it the same as I have been experiencing it in India?
So throughout medical school, throughout residency, we have had resources available to us if needed for to speak to someone if we've been dealing with some traumatic experiences. But the common consensus is to just keep going, keep it moving. That's what you do as doctors. If something tragic happens, you're sort of in the moment, you do everything you can in order to help this person, this patient. And of course, you take a little part of that patient and that suffering in you, and then you have to move on to the next patient. So even though resources are available, I don't think that I would say me or my colleagues have really used those resources when we needed them. A lot of the times you would just discuss this amongst each other, and I think that sort of helps create a stronger bond amongst you and your colleagues because you're able to talk to only certain people about it that are going through it with you, and you sort of discuss it and then you move on to the next patient, do what you can. But as you keep moving on through all these different patients, you take a little bit of that trauma in you. And then eventually it builds up so much that, you know, you really need to figure out what you do with it at the end of the day. So it's very important that every time you take a little bit, you have to pull it out as well. So to have a mental health day for you, whether it's once a week or even an hour a day or something like that, it's very, very important, especially for doctors.
But let's start dividing it into two parts. The one is the trauma that doctors go through because they have to be among people having trauma. But the second thing is the grind of becoming a doctor.
Yeah.
I was talking to Dr. Vanchpriya in the first part of this series, and she said something very wonderful. She said, when we say it's very, very demanding on the body and the mind to become a doctor, our seniors say, don't complain. We have been through the same. It's normal. It's like telling someone who is having a hard time, you are weak, you cannot complain. Now, tell me, does it really help and make people stronger, or it makes people have even more burden because you cannot even complain and say, hey, I'm finding it difficult?
So I haven't experienced that very much here. I think the reasoning behind that is because when we do undergrad, those are 4 years that we have to figure out what we want to do. And during that time period, you have the ability to shadow other doctors. You can ask all the questions you want to ask before you enter the medical field. So once you enter, you sort of have an idea of what's expected of you, and you already know what you're getting yourself into before you get there. So when these things come up, you're not blindfolded. Oh, I didn't expect this to happen. I didn't realize I was going to have to study for 15 hours a day or whatever it is, you know? So a lot of it's expected. And if it's not for you at that point, you can walk away. That's always an option here. It's not like this is it or you die, you know? There is life outside of school. So
Okay,
I think
do
that's
you
the biggest.
have, yeah, do you have examples where people walked out of it and
Yeah.
remain very healthy? Or do you have examples where it is very difficult, like in India, it's very difficult to get selected in MBBS and leave it? Believe me,
Yeah.
it's not easy at all, no matter how difficult you find it.
Yeah.
Is it, have you ever experienced in your personal life when you were going through your graduation as becoming like equivalent to Indian MBBS, where you found it very hard, where you regret it, but you did not have the courage to leave it? Did you go through some kind of stress, and how did you handle that?
So I did feel this stress my first year of medical school,
Mm,
because I felt like no matter how much I studied, I still wasn't getting the results I wanted, and I didn't know how I was going to continue with it, you know. But
mm,
the main thing that helped me was that throughout every stage of my life, I always had a really good support system, thank God. So
mm.
if I felt like I was drowning or if I felt like I couldn't move forward, there was always someone around me who was there to remind me or motivate me or say, okay, like just a few more months or just a couple more exams or, you know. So it's instead of looking at everything in a big picture, oh, of 10 years of schooling or 10 years of this, you look at it one day at a time, you know. And if you look at it that way, it doesn't seem so overwhelming after all. You just get, I got to get through today. I got to get through this exam, and that's it.
Can we say that Dr. Shruti was lucky to have a support system, or is it is common to have a support system, or the system provides your support system?
I don't know if everybody was as lucky as I am, but
Mhm,
thankfully, the people around me were good friends, colleagues, and people that have become my family now, you know. And these are people that I'm sure I'll keep in touch with for the rest of my life. So I think that it could go both ways. Either you have nobody and you feel alone, and then that's when you say, I need to step out. This just isn't for me. Or you develop such strong bonds with people and you carry those bonds with you as you progress through the journey.
okay. Can you suggest something for an MBBS student, especially in India, going through a lot of rough time because finding it very difficult to keep up with the competition or keep up with the kind of grind that the studies are presenting? What is your one suggestion to these people?
I think that the most important thing is to remember why you are doing it in the first place. The
Mhm,
most important thing you remember as a doctor is you're here to serve, right? And if you focus on serving, if you focus on the fact that everything you're learning will one day help to serve some individual or it will one day be useful in some moment where you don't know what to do, then if you keep your mind focused on that, everything else will just fall into place. Don't worry about getting the best grades or making these marks or whatever it is. Like focus on your lifetime goal, you know? And that's all that really matters.
So, Dr. Shruti, I would try to get a piece of information from you, and that is here the pressure of study is so much on the people who are doing their medical. that they either start getting so much of anxiety or to study harder because they have to compete, get good marks. They start getting taking pills that were not supposed to be taken just to maintain the mental health. Like they start taking either weed, or they start taking medication like benzodiazepine, etc., etc., just to lower their anxiety. And I have had cases where it has had huge impact, bad impact. Is it also, have you seen some kind of these cases in America also?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of students that are in medical school, like you said, you have that pressure to perform well or to make sure that you're getting good grades. They end up getting prescriptions for Adderall, amphetamines, and that has a side effect, especially if it's not medically necessary for you to have it, or if you're just taking it to study, and then you become addicted to it, and then it becomes a long-term problem. Another thing with I had classmates that were taking amphetamines to study, they couldn't sleep at night, you know, and also it raises your anxiety level, which is already raised, and it's making you even more
Correct.
anxious. So then to counter it, they would end up either smoking weed or taking other pills to bring that high back down, you know. So it's like a vicious cycle.
Vicious
It's a loop,
cycle.
you know, and you're in it, and then and once you're done with medical school, then what? Then you're addicted to all these substances that you used to get through medical school. And then there's another problem that you're dealing with. So, yeah, definitely there is an issue with that.
Okay, what stops besides the thing that you said, that doctors don't have hour for to themselves, that's why they don't go to a counselor? Is there any kind of a doctor ego? Because okay, I'm a doctor, how can I have a problem with my mental health? Is
Yeah.
that kind of an ego also stops doctors from taking a professional help in case of a mental health situation? Or are they aware between the difference between mental health and mental well-being?
So I think that in today's world now we've become more focused on mental well-being and mental health. But this wasn't the case before. So a lot of the doctors that are still working under older doctors, if they express this, they're laughed upon. You know, they're saying, "Oh,
Yeah,
that's not a big deal. I've been through that. You know,
yeah,
just move
yeah,
on." And
yeah.
if we don't raise awareness on this, then how will doctors know how to go and find the help that they need, especially if the older doctors are saying, "Oh, well, I've been through it and I'm fine." But are they really? You know, if you're carrying all these things inside you, then you're more than likely not. You have to take it out. You have to resolve all these traumas that have built up over time. So I think that it's very good that you are here speaking with me and you've spoken to many physicians, and I think it's very important to spread the awareness that you need to go and speak with someone.
And I really liked a part of your conversation when you were speaking and you said that it's not the end of the world. Believe me, Dr. Shruti, in India, it is the end of the world. Anybody taking admission in MBBS, not completing it, is kind of end of the world. So, would you have a message for people who take admission and then find it's not my cup of tea? It's okay. Like in America, is it okay? Is it okay not to be okay with being a doctor?
Yeah. So like I said, you don't go into medical school right away. You're not that young when you're entering medical school.
Yeah.
Most people are in their early 20s. I mean, you're still relatively young, but you've come to the decision where you know you want to be a doctor and this is what's required. And then even then, some people enter medical school and they realize, oh, this is not for me. I mean, I've had classmates that dropped out after a couple of semesters and it was just too much pressure, too much stress, and that's okay. I mean, now they're successful in a different career, you know. And I'm sure it must have been very difficult leaving. I mean, change is never easy. We all know that, you know. Anytime you're transitioning from one state to the other, or you feel like, oh, I failed and I know I didn't do this. And that's okay. That's part of human life, right? How many of us can say, oh, I've always succeeded in everything I've done? You know,
True. So,
I don't
so,
know
so
anybody like
beautiful.
that.
So
So
beautifully
there's
put.
going to be times, and that failure you have to use to rise back up. You know, one of my favorite quotes
Wow.
is rise after each fall like a rubber ball, and it's from Swami
Wow.
Ishwaranand Giriji Maharaj. And I've really taken it to heart. Every time I failed, I know that that's not rock bottom for me. This is just another way for me to rise back up, and it's going to happen. You're never going to be on a low spot for too long.
We need more motivating doctors like Dr. Shruti. And Dr. Shruti, thank you for your beautiful conversation and sharing that it is absolutely normal to feel pressure. It is absolutely normal if you feel that this pressure is taking its toll on you. Talk to an expert. And even if you think that this is not the line for you, it is not the end of the world. As Dr. Shruti quotes, the
Yes,
ball has to get down just to rise. Thank you. It
that's
was
right.
wonderful talking to you.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me.